BRIT School for Performing Arts is quite a prestigious school, which I knew nothing about when I was in secondary school. Cadell, Dua Lipa, Tom Holland from Spider-Man. Coming from Forest Hill Boys in South East London, I didn't think I was going to be able to relate. Supacell, absolutely amazing experience. Ratman created a scheme with Netflix to have all the HODs in his show Supacell be shadowed. So I had 6 weeks paid shadowing. Only responsibility was to learn. Just before that, I announced on my socials, I'm looking to be a narrative DOP and I want to shoot for Netflix. So to have that even come to me and that journey to start there was phenomenal.
How do you break into the creative industry? And how do our experiences shape our careers? Welcome to the podcast that asks the most influential creatives how they got the role that ultimately changed everything and what proactive tips others can adopt to get the picture. I'm your host, Kiosa Sukami, and this podcast series is brought to you by London Podcast Studios.
On this week's episode, we are joined by Ricardo McLeary-Campbell. Ricardo is the director of photography who studied at the BRIT School before jumping into the world of online content. In this space, he has lit videos for some of the UK's leading content creators and brands, including the likes of Chunkz, Harry Pinero, Nella Rose, Footasylum, and many more. Ricardo is now dabbling in television with recent works for BET, Channel 4, and recently, additional unit cinematographer on Netflix series Supacell. Okay, Ricardo,
Yes.
Thank you so much for taking the time today to come on the podcast today.
Yeah.
It's been really appreciated. I've been trying to get you on the series for a very long time now. Obviously, schedules have clashed a little bit. We wanted to get you on for series 1, but of course, it's never a late time, obviously, to have this sort of conversation. So thank you so much once again. I want to really get to know yourself before we get to talking about your work. So do you mind maybe just telling me a little bit about your background? So where were you born and raised to begin with?
So I was born and raised in South East London, Lewisham Borough. Very tumultuous time in the borough at the time. I am of Jamaican descent primarily, but my dad is actually mixed British and Jamaican. My mom's full Jamaican, but I was born here in London, UK.
Yeah. So what was your household like? Like growing up as the Caribbean household in South London?
Yeah, no. I was raised predominantly by my mum. Very strict, but beautiful and creative woman. She never didn't allow me to chase my dreams. Kept me very ambitious, but also kept me on the straight and narrow. Alongside my nan as well. She wasn't in the house, but a lot of the women in my family, my auntie, my mum, and my nan, were very strong women. I know with black women that's not the word you always want to use, but it's just true. They're very to raise boys with my brother, my cousin who's like my brother, and my younger sister who came a bit later. She done a very, very good job. So my house was quite peaceful. I was very happy. Yeah. Can't really complain too much, you know.
So how many siblings you mentioned you had two or three siblings?
Yeah. So I've got two. So I've got a brother who's actually kind of in the industry now. He does photography.
Oh, cool.
And I've got a younger sister who's actually starting to do music and find her creative voice. So quite a creative family.
Okay. Yeah. Did your parents do something similar as well? They work in a creative field, or is it just something that you guys have kind of just took up on yourselves?
Yeah, I guess my family's always been creative. So art in my family's been a big thing. My mum's good at art. My dad's actually good when I saw him. So is my aunties. My mum's been, I guess, Jamaicans, it's a bit different in terms of academics is pushed. I've done very well academically. But also creativity isn't a factor that is necessarily discouraged. Maybe just down to like having like Bob Marley, and there's so many different creators from Jamaica in terms of the creative industry. It's not something that isn't necessarily shunned as much. So with that being said, my family is creative. One wasn't necessarily doing anything creative, nor was my dad, but they allowed me to. I think when I finished secondary school, said, look, I got my A stars, I got my A's, like, Mum, can I go to the BRIT School and study and just do creative stuff?
Yeah, you be in your bed sort of thing.
Yeah, I've done that. I showed you I can do it.
Yeah.
So,
that's great.
Yeah.
So then maybe tell me a little bit about your first time discovering sort of like film and media. Obviously you mentioned going to the BRIT School, but before that, was there anything in your childhood or kind of like growing up, like any sort of influences that you might have had earlier on that maybe you could say, okay, you know what, maybe this was the first time I kind of had a taste of like film, TV, media, or sort of anything within that creative side?
Yeah, I think in retrospect, you see the little Easter eggs and gems that were left behind, almost like you're watching a film, but the Easter eggs you didn't know were there till you look back. My dad always had the load of video cameras, and he's actually quite into photography, even though he just does it as a hobby on his phone. So I think that had a big influence. Me and my mum watched a lot of movies. I would say more in the thriller category. That was quite prominent in the household. My dad used to watch a lot of like old school gangster films. Like, and some just real classics like Goodfellas, Bronx Tale. I remember certain films I used to watch. Mum used to watch The Cube, Matrix when it first came out. We got videos on videos of like really good films.
Yeah.
So I guess that was my early introduction into realizing when I look back that actually film's been part of my life. But when it came to formally, when I went and studied visual art and design at the BRIT School, that's when I done a film part to my course.
Okay.
So we covered quite a few modules. The BRIT School being quite extensive and opening your mind of what you can do. We done a module in film, and I think that's when I can definitely say, I was like, okay, I kind of like this.
Yeah.
I knew I would, but
Okay.
I like this for certain.
Interesting. So talk to me about the segue between moving from sort of like that early education into getting into the BRIT School. Like, what was that transition? Because you mentioned obviously that you got all your good grades and stuff like that, and you decided, okay, you know what, I want to be a creative. So what was that transition for you before you actually knew, okay, this is what I really wanted to do? And then of course, maybe tell me about the process and kind of getting into the BRIT School and how that was for you.
So to give context, the BRIT School for Performing Arts is quite a prestigious school, which I knew nothing about when I was in secondary school. But we've got some big names that come from there. So I'll shout it out like Adele, Dua Lipa, Tom Holland from Spider-Man, obviously Joivan and Percelle, Ascott, collaborators. And the list goes on from radio, TV, from behind as well, because the people behind don't really get a shout out. But they are there. I think the transition was interesting because coming from Forest Hill Boys in South East London, which another fellow DP actually that is my mentor went there as well, which I found out later. I thought BRIT School was all like jazz hands, and I didn't think I was going to be able to relate. But I found out about it when I was in secondary school because I done dance for a little bit. I wasn't really a dancer, but there was a guy that was. And he was like, oh, I'm going to the BRIT School. And then there was also, I had a girlfriend at the time who went there, who's actually the mother of my kids. She left early because you can leave to go to the BRIT School for year 10.
Okay.
To start then.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, if this is the best for arts, and I was like one of the best artists in my school, visual arts, fine art, I was like, this is where I'm gonna go. Like, I just like to be ambitious and go where the best are. So I went there eventually for college. Knew that's where I wanted to get go. I'm quite confident with my portfolio, being somebody that was very talented in my school. But I had an attitude like, there's no one here that I'm going to relate to.
Yeah.
I went there, I was wearing my all black still from like how we used to do in secondary school. I thought it was all colour. Everyone's going to be from backgrounds that I'm not familiar with. But I kind of found my tribe there and realised there was actually people similar to me coming from, I guess, more of a working class family, people with like African, Jamaican, Caribbean descent. Just people with similar backgrounds went there, and I started to feel comfortable. So the transition was interesting. And lastly, to say on that actually, which was even more interesting, when I was at the BRIT School, I thought, okay, cool, now I can just do complete art. Like I'm just gonna be here, exploring my creative side and making a future of that.
Yeah.
It was very academic in a sense. I had to finish 4 books a month.
Wow. Yeah.
And it started to put me off a bit, I'll be honest.
The academic side of like learning, you never kind of think about that, isn't it? Like as a creative, isn't it? You just think, oh yeah, like it's how complicated can art be? But there's processes to a lot of things, isn't it, that you may not have kind of thought. So what would you maybe say would be something that you kind of took away from the BRIT School, and what would you say, what was the transition after that? Maybe how did it help you to getting into the industry?
Great question. I think to segue, I think there's a study about some of the top universities and colleges around the world, and a lot of it isn't like you've got the same access to information. Sometimes you might have better lecturers, but the main difference is the vetting process. And that's what I realized with the BRIT School. Everybody that came here wanted to be the best at what they done, and what I really took away was the network. The BRIT School was almost like, oh, you went BRIT, or just the people that we know that are beside us, or you went there years after, years before. Once you say, oh, you went BRIT, we've got a touch point and we understand. You got an understanding that you was vetted for somewhere that was quite prestigious and quite hard to get into. And also, you know that there's a certain level of ambition that you would have had
Yeah.
to get into that. So I think the biggest thing was that collaboration. And secondly, as much as there was a hard academic side, there was a way to explore. They taught us how to explore things, how to, especially with my course, visual art and design, how to think about things differently to then get the best out of yourself. So I think there were the two key points.
So then, tell me about a bit more about the the transition into like maybe working as a freelancer. Did you go into working as a freelancer, or did you work into a company when you first left the BRIT School? How was that for you? I think when we spoke before this, I think you mentioned that you may have had like some form of mentorship or something that kind of showed you in terms of like what kind of specialisms or kind of which area you kind of wanted to work more towards than others. So maybe tell me a little bit about that, because I think some of our listeners, I think they may be in that stage as well of coming out of university or just coming out of education, but there's a lot of emphasis put into going into education, but not enough about that transition period afterwards and actually working as a freelancer, working as a creative. So I guess my question would be then, what was that work for you, and how did you find your feet post BRIT School? I know you mentioned it's great to have the alumni side of things, but physically actually getting work, what was that like for yourself?
No, great question. So there was a weird transition at the end of my course of visual art and design. I had an ultimatum that I kind of set myself. Art was kind of getting a bit boring. I think having to work in a certain way to be marked, that's what the problem was, because you have to show art something that's so, how do you mark art? So you have to do stuff for it. So I went to the guy who taught me film, that module, and I said I would either do his course, which was a year extra, learning film and digital arts, or I will go onto a TV show. So I got offered an audition for a TV show to be an artist on a TV show.
Oh, cool.
So like a young artist and etc. I didn't get the audition, so I started in film with him. Done a year with this guy, Ken McGill. He done a lot of big sporting documentaries, stuff like that. Got us up to speed. He done like some of the Lennox Lewis documentary with Holyfield, Gaza, the football player. And he just gave us a thorough education for that year as we shot films for the BRIT School. Then it came down to like, I've left, took my little bit of savings that my dad and my granddad had put down for me, and convinced them that I'll be good at film. So I got myself a Canon 5D Mark II, 24-105 lens, a few little bits, and I had to get my mum to convince my dad actually. He's like, do you know what you're doing? Have you done this? I'm like, Dad, like, yeah.
I went to the BRIT School.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing. And then at that point, I spoke to my friend Kyle Craig. Big up Kyle, was just behind the scenes of a lot of things. And I was like, yo, Kyle, I've got all this kit. I want to earn money. Have you got anything? Because he was already shooting stuff. He's a bit younger than me, but he was in that industry. And then he was like, I don't, but Joanne and Percy are shooting, who went BRIT School with me. And they done acting. They were actors. I can't remember what the course is called. They were doing a series called Man on the Wall, and they just started it at the time. He was like, you know Man on the Wall, right? Yeah, starting that thing. I think they shot like 1 or 2 eps. I was like, yeah. He's like, there's no money, but like
the experience,
it's something, innit?
Yeah,
and I was like, well, I've got the kit, why not? And I worked with Freddie, the director at the time, and I went there and us lot built Man on the Wall together. Loads of like long hours, nights and stuff like that. And with that, I was also freelancing, just finding corporate jobs, building a network, showing that I shoot, probably posting somewhere, Facebook, I don't know, Instagram, just letting people, word of mouth kind of gets out and people start to know that you're shooting. And I've done that as much as possible. Some jobs were probably for free. Actually, I remember my first job, I got money, I got £100. And I thought, wow, I'm getting paid for this.
What was the job, the gig?
It was with a dance company called Avant-Garde.
Okay.
I was filming for my friends actually that were dancers at the time, so I was getting paid here and there from them, but outside of my friends being paid to shoot, that was my first one, and I was like, yeah, £100, wow. And I started to meet other filmmakers, and I'm very proactive. So there was another guy called Larger Palumi who I met on that journey. Another guy called Greg Castillo. I think that's his. I'm saying it right, Greg. And there's people that were filmmakers and they were hungry. Each time I done that job, I'd meet someone on there who's a director, and I meet someone and I would just be keen to take their contacts.
Yeah.
And to learn. I remember Larger came on with a red camera. Back then I was like, Reds.
Yeah.
I was like, how's he got this? And he was a black guy. Nigerian guy called Larger, still a great friend of mine, a bit older than me. And we was doing a shoot and I came down for experience through Greg that I met through Tony, who was that first paid dance jobs that I was doing. And yeah, I was like, bro, how do you know how to put the wires together? Like, I remember looking, which is weird, yeah. You know, cameras you put the STIs in.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Back then, there was no information. There was no YouTube. So I was like, how do you know what wires to, how do you build a camera? Like, I was so intrigued.
Yeah.
But I'm somebody, if I want to learn, I will find the person to learn. And to end that, actually, how I started to learn from Larger, who started to teach me, was I got offered a job from these guys. Karen Spooner, and Quasi, who's a music artist to film a music documentary. They've seen stuff I was doing, thought I was talented, and Kieran's like phenomenal at finding talent early on. Like the amount of people he knows from seeing talent early. And I was like, look, they had a bit of money, more than most people come with. Like they put their money where their mouth was. It wasn't phenomenal, but I said, look, buy this equipment with the money rather than paying me. So I'll do stuff like that. I will shoot it now and I'll keep that equipment. And I said, they had a music video one time before that, and I was like, let's get this guy Larger on. But I knew that if I give Larger money, I can become his friends. Yeah. When I was asking him questions, he was a bit vague before, but I was like, let me pay him to come.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I can offer him like a good 400, 500 pounds.
Yeah.
Come down with his kit. Like now
Just
I can
from
create a
there.
relationship.
Exactly.
Just being smart and how you cultivate relationships.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
That's a really great way of looking at it, and I guess that's kind of led you to where you are now. So I think my question would be then, what would you say was that first initial transition from doing a lot more of that low budget indie stuff to actually saying, you know what, actually this can actually be a full-time sort of career. I'm assuming you do this full time now. Exactly. So what was it, at which point did you say, okay, you know what, this can be something that I'm going to now just be doing full time, because I can now say I built a network? And what was that gig maybe?
Yeah, good question. I think first and foremost, the importance of cross collaborating. So people want to collaborate with people above you. Larger was above me, and I learned from him, but also collaborating with people across. So Joivan and Percy were growing with Man on the Wall. I know at that point they were changing it to the Wall of Comedy, and I was doing a lot of corporate stuff. So I actually went to the BRIT School and was a teacher for a little bit as well.
Okay.
So I did vary my jobs, and my son came, so I worked at an after school club for a little bit. I can't work a normal job; it's insufferable. But I decided that I was going to do that. I think at the point when film became full-time, I remember being at the after-school club for like 4 years. I'm like, hold on a minute, what am I doing here? This was meant to be just like something to get me by.
Yeah.
Let me go full-time and leave. And I took the jump to apply for a job in film because I've got a son now. It's not necessarily how I wanted to play it, but you're building a family, you know? And I thought I'll definitely get a job because I'm talented enough to do it.
Yeah.
Naive and young, thinking like that's how easy it was. I built up a network at this point, so I applied for that job. I didn't get it, but I already quit anyway, and I made that decision. I'm quitting. So I always knew, because I was doing film jobs on the side, I know that I could make the wage that I'm making at the after school club. It's just that was solid and consistent. And at that same time, the Wall of Comedy were transitioning. We kind of had spent some time apart. They were building, stuff like that. And I went and worked with Joivan and Percy and worked out like a contract. It was actually a verbal contract. Big up Joivan for doing that, because he's really solid as a guy. And they stuck to it. I was paid a certain amount each month, each week, for a certain amount of days. And I started doing content for them. I think a bit before that as well, I worked with a company called Youth Media Agency.
Okay.
They found me and they got corporate clients and really young, talented filmmakers and kind of bridged the gap in creating projects. So they probably found people like myself and others that were really good for their age and could actually deliver a corporate project and then charge a corporate person a good amount and then take some off the top and everyone's happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't remember what age that was. They were the two things that allowed me to be like, okay, I'm doing this full time.
So then my next question would be, in terms of like working within that space, you mentioned obviously building up a network and working with the likes of Man on the Wall, et cetera. What would you say maybe has been some of the biggest differences that you've seen coming up in your career, working in so many different mediums, obviously doing branded content, doing like documentary sort of type of work, film, TV type of work as well? What would you mainly say some of the differences that you've experienced?
Yeah, I think, so yeah, to touch on that, having children, I think I remained quite versatile, to give context. So I have done docs with like big broadcasters and been on those. I have done more like social media, like high-end campaigns, down to premium online content and shows, like online shows. and then narrative pieces as well. And a lot of the skills are transferable. One of the big things that I'm an advocate for before I go into the differences of like skill and technicalities is standardizing rates. Right now, branded content, like we were some of the first, like the Wall of Comedy, for example, they were with Footasylum and had 8,000 views, and the Footasylum weren't doing these online shows. But the Wall, we've done so much content to that point, from skits to shows, working the online space. Joivan and Percelle created stuff for Footasylum. They had 1 million views on their channel and creating that space. With branded content, the thing is, at that point, like I said, it was new, and it still is new now. And a lot of companies are now come onto it after that boost that we've done with Footasylum. And there is no standardized rates. So some people will sway to more towards the commercial side. So you might be more APA, but that's rarer. Some people will sway towards Bec2, TV, kind of standard rates. And depending where the company comes from. But you have to stay very flexible rate-wise, because people are coming into it and it's a bit cowboyish. If they come from TV, APA is going to sound very expensive.
Yeah.
If they come from APA, it makes sense. And in between, there's some really high-end professionals in the branded content space, like really great camera people, like solid. And there needs to be a standardization for it. For me, just real quick on this point, I think Channel 4.0 or BBC Three or any of these broadcasters should do Bec2 rates. If it's Footasylum, Nike, or any of these, and Summers, any of these, they should do APA rates.
Yeah.
Sorry, because it's commercial and they're replacing that for a lot of their commercial content. But yeah, apart from that pet peeve and just sticking up for my people, because rates in the industry, we need people that are able to continue to work. I have a family, so I understand that I have a roof. So young people coming in is cool, but there are growing people in this industry and we want to keep it alive. So we need to do that, especially where stuff are going to the branded content space that needs to be standardized. But yeah, now that's off my chest. When it comes to the creative side and skill level, multicam shoots, online shows made me very versed in shooting 180 degrees or 270 degrees in terms of lighting a space, because you're lighting for multiple angles at a time, which really translates into my narrative where you got single camera, you're shooting on one direction. I'll normally go into a space and say, let me light the space. It might take us a bit longer, but then once we go, we can start shooting and we'll get through a lot quicker. And when you go into high-end TV and features, that is the approach that DPs take, which is something that luckily I've been able to have as well. Shadowing on Supacell, I saw Aaron Reed, the DOP, who just turned BSc, so big him up. Give him a cap. He shot 3 cameras, and TV, they do that sometimes. Some people are against that, but shooting multicam and having to light for 3 angles and seeing how he took that approach on there, I thought, okay, this is something that I can lend my skills to. When it comes to TV is not my favorite, if I'm honest.
Really? How comes?
When I say TV, let me be clear. TV non-scripted. I'm pretty sure there's some great shows out there. That's my experience on it. The people are less experienced than the people in branded spaces when it comes to the teams that I've personally worked with. But they have this, like, I'm here, you're there. It's very, like, I guess, corporate structure that doesn't really work for me, because I'm quite somebody that likes to treat everybody quite fairly. And obviously there are certain roles that have more experience in years, but I wasn't really feeling it, especially when they're not as talented as the branded content space. And I thought the reason for that is that branded content done content on content on content on content. By the time they've done the show, the branded space director has done hundreds. So the experience and the comfortability and the adaptability, they're just a lot more fluent. But yeah, I think that's the main differences that I see. My teacher taught me how to do self-shooting. He's a self-shooting documentary filmmaker, so being able to find shots and stuff like that off the cuff and sync conversation in a way with one camera, that was quite interesting. So yeah, they all lend themselves to each other, but there are a lot of differences. Like a lot of people that are DPs for TV or narrative come into the branded multi-camera space and they can't do it as well.
Wow, okay.
They just can't. With experience, they could. It's not that it's not impossible, but they're not experienced at that.
Now, I want to just segue into talking about some of your work. Obviously, you've already started to mention there, Supacell, all the other bits there you've done. So it'll be good in this segment here to kind of just highlight a couple of those pieces of work and really kind of just break them out and kind of talk about them a little bit. The first one that I wanted to discuss really was the recent short film that I've seen you sharing with the actor Demeji called Daddy Daze. So do you mind telling us? Yeah, great actor, honestly. Do you mind telling us a little bit about that project, maybe how it came about, and maybe your process to working on that? Because obviously you fluctuate between different mediums, as I mentioned before, like films, TV sort of work. So it will be good to understand what your approach to this particular short was, and just your general experience working on this.
Amazing, yeah. So Phil, the director. So I done a series of short films with a collaborator called Josh Bridge, amazing director.
Okay,
he done 3 shorts, which he got me to shoot 2 of. I believe he suggested me to Phil, and I've known Phil for years. I feel like I met Phil somewhere else. He tells me where we actually met, but I've known him for like 10 plus years. So it's good to have a 360 and to see a brother still in the industry doing his thing. So he contacted me and said, do you want to do it? And that's how we started with Daddy Daze, off the back of Josh's shorts. And yeah, the approach to Daddy Daze. So to let everybody, I'm gonna be honest. If you get me on a project, I'm somebody that doesn't compromise much, and not in a bad way, in a sense that I will compromise because there has to be.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh yeah, Reeks. I remember Josh came to me. I just want to do like a short films over the weekend. Maybe use the camera that you got. I said, I'll do it, but we're not using the camera I've got. I'll use my contacts to get the best camera that we can get in, the best gear. I treat every job as if I'm already on a Netflix drama. I will pick my lenses like I'm using paintbrushes. Like I picked a particular lens for that job. I don't ever think, oh, this is what's accessible. Because for me, it's practice, right? It's working a muscle, and I've always known more ahead of what I've done. So I'm already know how to light bigger sets than I've done. I always stay ready for the next step. So it's exercising that. So with Daddy Daze, first and foremost, working with a director, I like to spend a lot of time to get into their mind. So me and Phil just reconnecting again, having our conversations and understanding what the film was about. Luckily, it was a really tidy script. I used, what did I use again? It was the Supreme Radiance Primes, which are like Zeiss, very clean. I didn't have any filtration. It was a comedy drama, and I leant heavy into the drama side. So it's quite moody for a comedy. But just because of the story and it being very down to earth, it's about a father trying to kind of reconcile how his dad fathered him while he's fathering his son, down to in a moment where his dad's called him down to help him with his phone. It's they're both from Nigerian background. It's that kind of old school generation Nigerian versus a new school, and how they approach things, and you see that conflict rise. So for me, it was just approaching that as natural as possible and letting the comedy kind of sing. It was kind of satire in a sense, so I didn't have to overtly make it bright or do anything, because it's a drama at the end of the day. It's about a father and his son and the father's son as well. So yeah, I think that was it. Lighting wise, I worked with my team, always work with my team that I'm comfortable with. That's one thing that I would say to any filmmaker: when you're coming up, blanket yourself with people that you're used to working with. It's not, obviously make sure they're the best that they can be as well, the best, but the best that are there for you and here to support you, which I've got my team. So yeah, I think that was my approach to it, really.
That's great. And the second project I wanted to talk about was a recent one actually as well, more on the online content space. The show with Judi Love.
Yes.
That was set around a big table with a group of people.
Yeah.
That one seems like it was quite. I think I even watched that back before we got onto this podcast, and it was. I can't remember the amount of times that the camera was cutting to different angles. I wanted to know exactly how big was that, and what was that process. Obviously, doing something of that nature in comparison to maybe something like a short.
Yeah. So I love Judi. Judi is, I've known Judi for years as well. She was contacting me to create a show for her. I think she was just in a space where she needs to create for herself, and she was going through her own thing that I'll let her express. But I couldn't produce it for her necessarily. So Hatch Films came along and she wanted me to shoot it, but I didn't know Hatch Films came along. So Hatch called me and said, Reeks, we've got you for this project. It's kind of NDA, we can't speak about it. It's really big person. Judy be on Loose Women and stuff like that. And I thought, is it Judy's thing? And after that, I'm so happy that Hatch came on so I can actually create the look and make this the best for her. And that was the thing with Judi. She self-funded it. and he was just using my expertise firstly to light black skin, because I'm a fan of black skin and black people, just generally. So how I look at it is from that perspective, and creating a luxury feel is just making a show that felt it was multicam, but trying to give it an essence that it had been funded outside of Judi. She put a good amount to it. But yeah, again, I remember Rob from Hatch Films like, Reeks, we're going to use 3 cameras. I said, we're not. I said, we're not. I said, whatever it is, tell me the budget and I'll make it work, but we're not using 3 cameras. So that's why I collaborated with my production company to then help assist with the production side and got people on. So we had about 5 cameras, I believe, if I'm correct. And that was just coverage that you need for like a round table. I made sure the position of the table was a certain way, so we're not using more than 5. Because a lot of these shows seem simple, but multicam can get really expensive just down to the sheer numbers of coverage that you have, because everything's live. And then just creating a mood that suited black skin tones, tungsten lighting, nice colours. I can't take credit for all of that because we had good stylists and an amazing team across it. So just creating a luxury feel with a tight budget, and just making that happen for Judi, which just, luckily with experience that allowed me to do so. I bought loads of camera operators. Anybody dropped out of that, if anybody dropped out, it couldn't have worked, because I had camera operators that had multiple cameras that they owned. And I'm very big on matching cameras, because in post, when it comes down to color grading and stuff like that, it can just be stress if not multi-camera. I always use the same sensors. If not, I might use an FX6 and an FX9. Still not a fan of it, but it's close enough, you know? So yeah.
Brilliant. So the last project I want to touch upon now is the big one, obviously, Supacell, and transitioning into working on high-end TV, Netflix. So I want to talk about how that came about as well, because I remember online, I think at the time you announced it, that I think it was like a group of people that were doing multiple different things, working on this new series that Netflix were sort of releasing. So maybe give us a little bit of a context about how that first came about, and then of course your experiences working on that, because it's definitely a big big jump, isn't it?
Big shout out to Vashti, Sheila Naughtley and Ratman, and Mukhtar, who's Mukhtar. You probably know some of the others, but Mukhtar is a hidden figure in the industry.
Exactly. I even saw some pictures on the red carpet at the BAFTAs. Like he finally showed up.
He's trying to show his face. Mukhtar's amazing. Ratman, and I believe him bringing in Sheila created a scheme with Netflix to have all the HODs in his show Supacell be shadowed. Vashti brought that to my attention because they didn't want to do a major public announcement of it. It was sent through certain companies, and Vashti said to me, "Oh, you know the Wolves got this email, Reeks. No one said anything about it, but obviously you'd be up for it, right?" I said, "Yeah." So I had to audition like everybody else. I had to interview for it. I spoke with Aaron Reed, told him my favorite cameras, had what I like to use, who I am, and he selected me. And it was a shadowing scheme, so I had 6 weeks paid shadowing. My only responsibility was to learn.
Amazing.
No other responsibility. We had meetings with Sheila. Sheila was our liaison through the process, and she was amazing at that as well. And I just got to see Aaron Reed work. I said, Aaron, I remember getting there and being like, Aaron, so I had the idea that I'll write down all your lighting plans for you, give you notes. He said, bro, it's not that. You just need to come here and learn. And he said, what I want to show you is the big lighting setups. I can see that you know your staff. What I want to show you is this. And he's showing me a lot of like the politics, how to navigate the things that at DOP has been a head of department. A lot of it is relationships, how to navigate that, and it's observing him alongside in the pre-production meetings, seeing pre-vises for like fight scenes that were like 300 and something shots. Most amazing experience. Cause I was quite self-taught in the sense I had mentors, but I had done a year in traditional education and that was it. And I went straight into freelance. And I don't first AC, I don't spark, I don't gaffer. I went straight from videography kind of work. Well, I lit as well. I was taught to light, and then went to DP. And so Supacell, absolutely amazing experience. And then they offered us a credit. So I got an additional director DOP credit on Supacell. Amazing. So I didn't shoot any of them, like the main thing. I'm not going to take that credit. But to get a DP credit on that. And from just before that year, I announced on my socials, I'm looking to be a narrative DOP and I want to shoot for Netflix. So to have that even come to me, and that journey to start there was phenomenal. And yeah, Ratman and Mukhtar as well, seeing them work and how they dominated that space and made that series theirs. Yeah, it's an experience that you can't buy. You can't buy. And I was paid. It wasn't
Exactly.
necessarily as much as I needed to survive being a dad.
Yeah, but you can't.
But
Yeah,
it was paid. So
yeah. It's a brilliant experience. I can imagine to be able to say that you've done that, and I'm sure that must open other doors for you moving forward in terms of like what you've got coming up next and kind of like what you're going to be working on. Because like you said, you want to be working more in narrative. So it'd be good to see what you do then in terms of like the TV side. Is there any other things that you have coming up in that sort of realm, or any sort of projects that you think that, you know what, I'm definitely going to flex that muscle again from what I've learned on this set?
Yeah, no, I'm 100%. So I announced I was going to do 6 or 7 short films. I've done those.
Oh wow, okay.
I've done 8, I think, to date.
Right
now. Josh Bridge has got his premiere for the 2 films that we shot together, and the third with Quason, who shot the other one, Quason Matthews. And then I have, obviously, Daddy Daze will be coming out very, very soon. I'm working on a short that I'll be shooting this month with Martins, who is an actor on Bridgerton. It's his directing and writing debut. So we're working on that, which should be amazing. And then lastly, I think I can announce, because I think by the time this probably comes out, it'll be there. But I'm on another shadowing scheme with Universal, so NBCU.
Oh, cool! Congratulations, man.
Yeah. So again, a tougher selection process, and I have the opportunity to then shadow again, but then get a second unit DOP credit, which is just my step into narrative. So my plan is just to shoot as many great narrators and work with as many directors that are fantastic. Oh yeah, I've got another project called Noir coming out, which is all black and white, film noir. Hope from Top Boy is in it.
Interesting.
We got Adewar, and I've done it with Charlene Wango. She's the director, and the writer Shazni. And it's very fun, like lighting wise, one of my favorite projects.
Amazing.
Film noir.
Looking forward to seeing them come out. My question, my other question I forgot to ask was on the flip side. Obviously, we talk about all the projects that you've done, in terms of like them being, really good. Are there any things that you may have done or experiences that you may have had that you thought, you know what, this is not a really great project, or just generally like any experiences as a DP that you may have had that you can maybe warn others about?
Yeah, I think not to single out anyone on a project. There's one that really strikes me and comes to mind. I fell out with the directors by no fault of mine. They just didn't stick to their words. I think, like I said, I'm big on treating your career. Be the person you want to be now rather than later. So treat exactly the same. So as a DP, I think it's important to get contracts involved. And when I say contract, especially for shorts, so you put so much into it. One thing I get burnt on a lot is color grade. For branded content, I don't get to. It's such a quick turnaround. Sometimes I can't even be bothered, if I'm honest, because it's such a. Editors sometimes grade it. They didn't really have budget for a colorist. Yeah, because of kind of work. But I really like to protect my work, the skin tones, and I know that in this industry you might not have many opportunities to show what you can do. So I think in my in contracts, like saying that I should be involved in all coloring like decisions, or have like a sign off or a pass. Same with the short films. There's a particular short film, they didn't have me in the grade, and I shot night scenes that meant to look like night, and they look like daytime. Because I shot in a certain way where as a DP I was going to bring that down in the grades. And same thing when you do Supercell. Aaron done the first pass of the color grade, and then Ratman came in after. It's important to have DPs there. So I think overall it's being very clear about what you want to be involved in. It's only for the betterment of the project. It isn't anything that you're taking away from it. You actually want to add. So I think now when it comes to shorts, having in there that I'll be involved in the color grades and I get to see that as well. Also just being able to collect the finals, or even like just shots from your work if possible. If you're doing stuff that you're putting a lot of time or free effort into, even having a shot on your show reel can be the difference for me. And that's something I got out of it, as much as you're pouring even more than that. So I think I've learned to put everything in writing, basically, to protect yourself, and also is to protect everyone else, because you're clear on the terms and it's in writing. So nobody, because at that point of agreement, you both should be happy, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
yeah,
It's really good advice there. It saves you, having to get stung in the
Yeah.
end, in the long run. One final question I want to ask you maybe would be more about your methods and maybe your process. Is there anything that maybe you tap into as a creative, or anything that you look at? Obviously, I know you mentioned you've got like a visual arts background. You come from BRIT School. So is there anything that maybe that you use within yourself that you can say, okay, anytime I get on a job, I'm tapping into this part of me, or this is specific books or stuff that I look at basically?
having a visual art and design background, I'm very versed in like color theory, certain methods as well. So that is a very big foundation to help, and composition and stuff like that. When it comes to inspiration, first and foremost, if you can give me music, because my brain spits out visuals, I realize I'm a very visual person. So even if I communicate, I would like to visually communicate. I think it's just a better way to communicate, you know, because you can picture something. We can speak about something verbally, but what we're picturing is two different things. So I will look at a lot of imagery, and I directly reference films a lot of times. I'll directly reference other films that I really like, compositions, textures, colors, medium format photography, love it. There was a particular camera that there's a photographer called Shayna Reese. If she's watching this, she doesn't even do it no more. I used to look at her images and be like, how does she do this texture of this image? I knew it was film, didn't know how she done it. So medium format, the shadow depth of field, the texture of the film, the highlight roll off, them things are very inspirational to me. Like I said, when it comes to music, if you play music, I will see images straight away. So if you had a song, if we was working together and you had a song that felt like the film, I will start to get it. So, because I will picture images as the song's playing.
Okay.
So I'll do that a lot. And then, yeah, visually I think also life. I know it sounds a bit, but being a dad and having more and more experiences, how you perceive things is different, or having more experience in film as well. I might walk through somewhere and be like, oh, this lighting looks nice.
Yeah.
Or it could just be an emotional thing where I know what it felt like in that moment with my kids, which you have some deep-rooted emotions. So to convey that in an image, you might have more of an emotional repertoire to try and communicate that visually. How do I get that feeling out? I think, the more as I move through life, my imagery gets more mature. And then, and the way I see things, because it is just about how we see, and we're trying to recreate that and add that to a project. And I think lastly on that, if you get me, you get Aaron Reed, and you get Olan Kaladi, despite us trying to do something different, we're going to make certain choices that are the same, because we see things a certain way.
Yeah.
And as much as I want the style for the longest as a DP, and until I started to look back and realize I had a style, because you make similar decisions, you know, on how you see the world. So yeah, but I always challenge that. That's my main thing. If I go on a project, I try and break my old style. I try and feel like, okay, how do I see this one differently?
Yeah. It's a good way of looking at it, and it means the project's a bit fresh from there every now and again. All right, so now for the final segment of our podcast, which is the fun part.
Yeah.
We're going to play a little game. So in this game, we're going to play you 5 different clips. They're going to be blurred out. For the purposes of this one, you really have to just really listen to the sound.
Okay.
And the idea is that you have to guess what the film is just purely from the actual sound itself. So it'll be a mixture of maybe film, TV shows. There might even be a little meme in there somewhere. But hopefully they're popular enough and culture that you're able to pinpoint them. So we're going to start off by playing the first clip, and obviously no pressure if you get any of them wrong. The last season that we did, we had one person score 1 out of 5. So the bar is just to score at least 1.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
great, cool. So we'll play our first clip, please.
Oh boy, there you go. Okay, I know this is. Sheldon, what's it called again? Big Bang Theory. Yeah,
That was the one. Sheldon Q from Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
You a fan of the show? Or?
Yeah, I used to watch it a lot.
I binge watched so much of that. E4 reruns were the ones that just held me for like decades, man. Honestly,
Yeah, I used to watch it a lot. My dad, Sheldon, big character.
Yeah.
One of the best characters still.
Amazing. Second clip.
I'll be a better father than he ever was. And I sure as hell
Oh,
will
yeah.
for that. 'Cause ain't a damn
Will
thing
Smith,
he could ever
you know what I mean?
teach me.
Yeah.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
There you go. It's classic, isn't
Yeah,
it? You
classic
can't
scene.
not that
Classic scene, yeah. One of the most emotional scenes, really and truly. Yeah, very emotive.
Bro, tear to a lot of people's eyes. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's quite an emotive scene. No, big.
Real. 2 out of 5 so far. So you're already, you're not the worst already.
Yeah.
Well done, man. All right, third clip.
Favor us about your ghosts.
No. I am sick of that subject.
Oh, dear, you're lighting up.
I would rather talk about
I don't know it, yeah, but I feel like it's the same voice that plays Baloo.
Blue. Which character?
Baloo from Jungle Book.
Okay, yeah, that actually does sound. Yeah, it does actually sound like him. Yeah, yeah.
But is it Baloo or Bagheera? Sorry, yeah, one of the two.
The big bear was like.
Yeah, I feel like it's the same voice actor, but no, I don't know that one.
That was Beetlejuice.
Okay,
yeah, it's a scene where they're having dinner around the table,
Yeah.
and the whole family's there. They just break out into singing that Dale song. Be
okay,
like,
okay.
and we don't wanna go.
Okay.
Sorry, well, hold on. All right,
Yeah.
fourth clip, please.
Beetlejuice. Okay, I know whose voice that is. Okay, well, I know whose voice it is. So I'm just guessing it's a Terminator. Arnie.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, it's Arnie.
Okay, so that one was Predator. I didn't even get that one myself, to be honest. But I mean, like you said, we recognize the voice itself.
voice,
So maybe half a point
half
we'll
a
give
point.
you for that
I'll
one.
take that. I'm doing better than
Doing better, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not normally good at this stuff, so I think you guys will help me out.
Final clip.
Here's Johnny.
All right, cool. I don't think I actually know it, but it's is it because he said here's Johnny. Is it that Johnny Darko or is it that Darko film with the bunny rabbit thing?
No, I'll give you a second guess. That was a good guess though.
Here's Johnny. Sounds like a horror. Okay, I'm gonna just go for a classic horror. I'm gonna pick one. Jason.
Nah.
okay.
So that was the Shining.
Okay.
Well done. So that was what 3 out 3.5 or
Yeah, that's
2.5.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done. Thank you so much. That was a really good attempt on that. Like I said,
Yeah.
you didn't do as bad as you thought you would. So congrats on that, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ricardo. It's been a pleasure to have you on. I think our audience may have taken a lot from that. I know I did. It's been good to really find out about your journey and really kind of have you in person. I think anytime we've connected, it's always been on social media. So it's been good to put a face to a name and really find out a little bit more about you and actually talk about your work as well, actually. So really appreciate it. Is there any final words that you'd like to share with us? And of course, after that as well, just let us know where we connect with you as well.
Yeah. Firstly, I appreciate you bringing me on, and even to speak about a journey and have a journey is a blessing in itself. Like, thank God for that. And yeah, hopefully we work together in the future. First and
Definitely.
foremost, I love what you've done
Thank you,
recently. Like, you putting your money where your mouth is, making a project happen, and yeah, actually executing on something that you believe in, I think is something we should all protect. And if I was going to leave everyone a message in the creative industry, no matter if you become a service for somebody, always create your own, because that's what brought people to you in the first place. And that's what will carry on giving you legs and longevity and allow you to stand on your own. So if you have ideas, you have projects that you really are into and you love, that you can do without having the pressure of a client, do it. Like, do it. 'Cause that's how you stay fresh. That's how you communicate who you are, you know, and that's the most important thing as a creative in this space, you know.
Brilliant. We'll definitely, honestly, work on something. I know again, our schedules kind of missed out on this one, but I definitely wanted to have you on this one. So we'll for sure collaborate on something. Where can our audiences connect with you online if they wanted to reach you or just stay in touch?
Yeah, so I'm Ricardo McLeary-Campbell, McLeary with 1 C, so McLeary, and then Campbell, online. And yeah, you can just find my website, you can find me Instagram, all the other socials.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ricardo.
Pleasure.
Brilliant. Thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed this content, then make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the official London Podcast Studios channel. If you want to join the creative community and find out how you can get the picture, then make sure to click the link in the description.